Alright, today's video, going to be changing the wheel bearing on both front ends of a Beetle. The reason why is because this one has a lot of play in it, which is causing a lot of noise. Let me see if I can show you the play. It's kind of clicking. Okay, now I'm going to just take the wheel off, 17 millimeter. Now I'm going to go ahead and take off this axle nut. It is a 30 millimeter. Next is to take off this brake caliper. It's a size 7 Allen head. Now with the caliper off, take off the rotor. And there's your hub with the bearing on the inside, of course. I'm gonna get a punch and I'm gonna punch this axle out to loosen it up. So when we take this whole assembly off, it just slides right out. It's a 19 millimeter. I forgot to record this little bit. This little plate that's at the bottom ball joint sits inside the control arm. Then there's this top hat. Sits like that. And then three 13 millimeter bolts coming from the bottom. This is in the middle. And then it goes to the cap. Sorry, I forgot to record that, but it's just 3 of them. And then once you take that off, all that's holding this whole assembly on is the top of the shock. This is where you're gonna need a special tool. So this brand, Schwaben, has this special wrench. That's a 22 mil and a 21 mil. 21 mil is the original size for these shocks, and 22 mil is like aftermarket, which these are. Point is, they sit in here and you can loosen it, but you gotta hold that little hold that flat end with an 8 millimeter. Or they have these sockets that essentially do the same thing. They get onto the nut, and then you just hold the piston, and then you just ratchet it off. Here's your whole assembly. Sucks that I have to do it like this. Like if yours could separate from right there, that'd be best. So you just have to work with the bottom part. But mine's not like that, so now I gotta deal with this whole assembly. This is my little setup. Old rotors, control arms, to more or less keep that straight when I'm pressing. And yeah, so that's what I did for the other one. That's what I'm gonna do for this one. Alright, first thing I'm gonna do is take off the heat shield, 8 millimeters. Now that I got everything mostly settled just by putting stuff to kind of evening it out. This is why I said it would be easier without the shock attached, but I'm not going to spend another hour trying to take the shock out and then try to put it back in. So I got it more or less straight. I have a 1-inch socket that fits just inside that hub. So just find a socket for you. This might be a different size outer ring, but I pretty much got it to where it sits right on the hub. And then we start pressing it out. Okay, and then this is the front where the wheel would be attached to. There's a snap ring right here, and that comes out so you can push the bearing, outer race of it, out the same way that you push the hub itself. So both of them come in from the front. And that only took forever, but I got it. Alright, and looking at the hubs, you can see more or less what it's supposed to look like. It should be a little bit better, and what it's not supposed to look like. So all that play that we were seeing is the result of this just being worn out. And you can tell because this is, I mean, I slammed it back together, but it's still the same diameter. That just slides in and out. It shouldn't. And right here, I don't want to push on it because it's just going to fall, but it doesn't slide in. So, all right, I'm going to show you how to get this inner side of the bearing off if you're deciding to keep your hubs. And I'm going to show you how to cut it off if yours are still good. So I have myself a Dremel with a little cutoff wheel. This is a 1.5 inch. If you can get like a 1 inch, it's going to be probably a lot better. The one that I used yesterday, this is a brand new disc. The one I used yesterday was already worn down a little bit, so I was able to get in here. So as you can see right now, I'm going to be cutting into the ABS wheel, this little sensor wheel, which you're probably going to have to since that's yours. And yeah, but I'm going to go ahead and cut it, and I'm just going to cut it deep enough to where it's weakened, and hopefully this wears down so I can get onto this top part. And once I do that, then I'll be able to use a punch and split the bearing, and it'll slide right off. Okay, you can see a slit right there. And that's the sacrifice you're gonna have to make cutting it if you do it like this. But that's what you're trying to go for right here. Now I'm gonna get a punch and hopefully it'll split like the other one did. There you go. Anyways, so yeah, this one's okay. It's good to reuse it. Or I would reuse it, but we're just gonna get brand new ones. And start with 2 new hubs, 2 new bearings, and call it good. Okay, now we're gonna be putting in the new bearings. First thing we're gonna do is try to clean up as much gunk and old bearing material that gets kind of crusted in there. We're gonna get that cleaned off, and then we're gonna clean the new bearing, which is right there. So when this gets pressed in, there's no dirt or material left over, and it doesn't score the metal, which I doubt it will even, but rather have everything clean going in. And if all is good, the snap ring should just sit right in there. These aren't like other snap rings that I mess with where one side is beveled. If you happen to have one that is beveled, put the bevel towards the bearing and the flat away from it, so it's pushing against the knuckle. But this one looks flat on both sides, so doesn't matter. This is my setup. I'm using a ball joint press, and I have a 36mm socket, shallow, and it's just going to squeeze it all together. So yeah, I mean, you go to a bottom down. I'm just telling you, like, that's the gap more or less of what it is. I don't really like using this little C clamp that I don't have the tool or the right bearing and installation and removal tool, so this is what I got, and it's worked. You can see, no play, top or bottom. She spins. And if you can, grab this Beck & Arley 051-4164, because it gives you the hardware: new axle nut, new tie rod nut, new spindle nut, pinch bolt nut, and yeah, and I believe this one, I don't know which one this one is. But yeah, go ahead and pick this brand up if you want all the new hardware. Alright, now we're gonna go for a test drive and hopefully no more noise. So I forgot to take the camera from the drive, but all is good. You don't hear any wheel bearing noise anymore. So she's good to go. And hopefully this video helps you guys out. Yeah, have a good one.